In Washington, D.C., Congress is moving forward with the investigation into the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Next week, the House Select Committee will recommend criminal charges against Trump White House chief strategist Stephen Bannon after he defied a subpoena. The move would escalate a major legal battle between the Select Committee and former President Trump. They would be going back and forth over access to key witnesses and documents that could shed light on what led to that pro-Trump mob storming the Capitol and interrupting Congress's formal count of the votes that confirmed President Biden's win. So far, 11 individuals connected to the former president have received subpoenas. Live with us now to wade a little further into this is Julia Manchester. She is a national politics reporter with the Hill. Julia, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So Stephen Bannon was scheduled for a deposition Thursday before the committee investigating the attack simply just blew it off. His lawyer saying he wasn't able to provide testimony or documents until the committee either reaches an agreement with former President Trump over executive privilege or until a court weighs in, right? But he could face serious consequences for this, theoretically.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you are going to see Democrats really try to hammer Steve Bannon on this for skipping out on that deposition. Look, they will continue to try to get him to testify before the panel, but it's really unclear whether Steve Bannon will do that. It seems like him and a number of Trump allies are really set on not cooperating with Congress. So we'll have to see what other extra lengths they go to avoid appearing before that committee.
And they're using this executive privilege argument, right? But it's a little bit questionable because he wasn't working for the federal government on January 6th, and President Trump isn't president anymore.
Absolutely, that is questionable. Like you said, he was not working in the Trump administration at the time. President Trump isn't president anymore, so it's unclear how that will work out in Steve Bannon's favor. However, I think you are going to see a lot of legal representation from Bannon in Trump world continuing to argue that. And I don't think Steve Bannon is the only Trump administration that will continue to defy these subpoenas. I think you are going to see them really trying to protest appearing before this committee. I don't know what really that does for them in the long term, though, because I would argue that from a public opinion perspective, it looks like they're trying to avoid something or they're trying to hide something. So we'll have to see what they do going forward.
It reminds me a little bit of Roger Stone, right? They've both been poking the bear for a long time, but the lawmakers are honing in on him in particular. Why?
You know, I think it's because since the beginning of President Trump's rise to political stardom, Steve Bannon has been very good at tapping into this populist energy that has really surrounded President Trump ever since he launched his presidential bid and going up into the run-up of January 6th and this protesting against the official election results from the 2020 presidential election. So they would want to see what other intel, what other information he might have. But that being said, I don't think it's a surprise that Steve Bannon is pushing back and not showing up for these congressional appearances. I think Steve Bannon is someone who wants to defy authority, especially when it comes from the establishment in Washington. So I would not be surprised if this gets dragged out longer.
And you know, even if he's held in contempt, and you talk about the public opinion and whether they can weather that, but like former President Trump, Stephen Bannon seems to be invincible. Even if he's held in contempt, that could be derailed by delays and eventually an acquittal, right?
Absolutely. It could be definitely held up by delays. And, you know, speaking of public opinion, you know, I don't know how much the American public, you know, given everything that's happening right now, necessarily cares about how long this goes on and what necessarily happens to Steve Bannon. Look, I think there's a political fatigue among the American public. So, you know, I think Congress will definitely be having their pulse on that issue. But I think Democrats are definitely want to go and continue to really hammer Steve Bannon, hammer these former Trump administration officials, because this is what they have really done. They've been trying to essentially get these people in a corner. Do I know how it will play politically? I'm not sure, but I think we'll see Democrats continue to try to get him in a corner.
Yeah, I feel like we've been talking about so many instances like this where it could be political suicide, but it ends up not really being anything. What about the other Trump allies who have been served? We have former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. We have Kash Patel. They've at least apparently been talking to the committee or cooperating somewhat, right?
Yes, we know that they've been cooperating somewhat, not doing this complete ignoring that Steve Bannon has been doing. And it seems like Kash Patel and former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows are, seem like they would be more cooperative. These are people that really come from, establishment world in Washington. So I'm not surprised that they are going to cooperate. But it'll be interesting to see, if they cooperate, what does Bannon do? And would, anyone ever be thrown under the bus in Trump world, or would someone try to pressure them and pressuring Bannon to appear? We'll have to see how that pans out.
And really quickly, before I let you go, is it possible President Trump could have issued preemptive pardons for any of these people behind closed doors before he left office?
I'm not a legal expert, but we have heard that scenario floated around. So it's very possible. What I'm interested in is to see if any of these congressional leaders would ever go as far as to subpoena President Trump and try to get information from him himself. We don't know if that will ever happen. I would probably assume, I would doubt that that would happen. But once again, I think it's a wait and see game.
All right, Julia Manchester for us from the Hill. Thank you.